have some live subjects we brought with us, and we have some other things happening today out in the pasture. What happened out in the pasture, Sarah?
Okay, I was watering plants in our little hoop house greenhouse, and I heard one of our mama sheep making really strange noises, like she was very much in distress. And usually they have different vocal tones. You know, some just go bah, and some just kind of stand around. But this was really weird, so I went over to the pasture, and that rascal, she had a baby. Now this is 2 weeks early, right? And she had lost the other one. She had a set of twins. We have a ram and a ewe lamb. And she did it all by herself. They were all dried off, cleaned off, you know. But she had lost one, was here, and she was here. So anyway, Bob was gone, of course. But when he came home, we got him put where they belong. And this is really interesting because this is very unusual. But what's really kind of fun is if she's 2 weeks early, we have 7 more mamas that could go too. So we're kind of, and then we're hatching babies kind of round the clock. These guys started Saturday, and the rest came Sunday. So they're not very old. And they've already been spoken for. Hi, Wendy. They've already have a home. But we want to talk about it. We do this because it's fun. We do this because I think everybody should have a couple of things. Chickens is one because it's easy, and 2, everybody ought to have a big garden and raise their own stuff. That's what I think. And when you go to the grocery, maybe you think that way too. Okay. Are we ready?
Well, yes. So things are happening at the farm. We have a lot of plants in our little greenhouse, and there's the princess out in her backyard. And if a few of you have been there, right, that's what it looks like. We like those raised boxes, and if you want to find the presentation on that, I think it's on the DC Sustainable website. You can look at that and find out how, I think even the plans are up there.
Okay, they're raised. Everybody, a lot of people have the raised beds. They're on the ground. And I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, I got to do a presentation for a senior group in Hutch at a church there. And a lot of those people had walkers or wheelchairs. They were seniors. And so I told them about, then we have a big organic garden. And they said, well, that's okay for you, but I'm with a walker or I've got my cane and I can't. So I went home and told Bob, and he said, well, let's design something that somebody in a wheelchair or a walker or, you know, can use. So that's how this happened. And I'm so glad because when I did that presentation, I was 20 years younger, and I'm going to be 86 in June. Okay, which gives you a rough idea of why I'm thrilled to have raised boxes. Now, I can get on the ground. That's no problem. But getting up might be a teeny-weeny little bit of a strain. If anybody's over 60, they understand. The rest of you, you'll find out.
All right, our next slide. You know that chickens, we like egg chickens. A lot of people raise meat chickens, but we've never raised meat chickens per se, so we don't know anything about them. But we do know egg layers. We've been doing it for about 30 years. And how many of you know that hens are chickens? How many of you know that roosters are not chicken? They can be very guardian-like, like German Shepherd type guardian-like. You might have seen the movie Roots, you know, Chicken George, and he was fighting with the cockerels. If you get the wrong rooster, Wendy, if you get the wrong rooster, what happens? You better have a big pack of Band-Aids, let's put it that way. So if you're looking to get some chickens, I would say pick out a breed that is kind of mild-mannered, especially if you have young kids. because those roosters, I've seen a rooster back down a Great Dane before. It didn't go well for the rooster, but he did back it down for the longest time.
That's why we do both. Our favorite breed, we've raised all kinds of different kinds of chickens, but our most favorite, it's a dual purpose bird, which is for egg laying and for meat. You can use it as a dual bird. And a lot of times what we do is we keep the hens and add to our flock, and we eat the roosters when they get ready to go in the pot. Okay, this works really, but we use Buff Orpington. It's a heritage breed, and they've been around forever. And this is like, I don't know, our fourth generation from our breeding stock. We do everything organically. We feed them organic, and then they have free range to pasture area. So they're getting bugs and grubs, and we supplement and all of that too.
All right, so there's our topic today. Go ahead and show the next slide. There's some chicken breeds. So upper left is Rhode Island Red. I think the one on the right, upper left or upper right, is an Americana. The bottom left is a white leghorn, and
That's a Buff.
that's a Buff Orpington. That's our current rooster.
The reason we do this is they have like the Rhode Island Red, and some of them, they have the large combs. In Minnesota, those combs get frostbitten, okay? And if they get frostbitten, it won't kill them, but they turn black and fall off, okay? So you want to get a breed when you're picking out your breed with a smaller comb, whether it's a Buff Orpington or some other thing, but that's the reason we got started with them, okay?
Sure. And then, of course, the number of eggs a year, it's going to vary between 100 to about 300, and that's for the first year and the second year chickens. The third year chickens, they start to fall off, and then by the time they get to be 4 or 5, you might only get 1 egg a week.
And then it doesn't pay. Then you eat them. You put them in the crock pot and you cook them all day, and you have marvelous chicken soup and chicken broth. Excellent, excellent way to make everything. Yeah.
So we like big eggs, and they're usually brown, but we like big ones. And it's just our personal choice. If you want to find out some information on various types of chickens, you can go to the McMurray Hatchery website. And under each type of chicken, they list quite a few details about that particular chicken. So that works.
Also, Cackle Hatchery. Of the two, I like I ask them to send me a catalog every year, and they have a wonderful catalog with the pictures and a breakdown on each breed and what they have available and when.
McMurray.
Now, we've ordered chickens when I was, before we got into doing this ourselves, we would have to buy new chicks every year. And we've gotten them from both McMurray and from Cackle, but we prefer Cackle. I've never lost a chicken. How do you spell Cackle?
Yes.
Cackle.
Cackle Hatchery in Missouri. And we'll have some handouts for you in a bit here. You can
No, everything we're saying is going to be written down, and you're going to take them home. But we don't pass them out now because we want you to listen instead of reading the list.
Okay, hold that. All right, so as far as accessories, you're going to need an incubator. So we like this particular model. It's okay. We bought it on Amazon, and it's called a Harris Farm Mana Pro Nurturite 360, but it's almost automatic. Back in the early days, we bought one of those styrofoam box type ones, the ones you get from, I think, Little Giant, they called it. And you had to buy the Turner's Extra, and it had the control that didn't work so well.
It didn't work for us.
It didn't work for us, you know. So we killed a lot of chicken eggs that way. And we eventually just got rid of it. But this has worked really, really well for us. So it does have a timer on it that counts off the number of days. It has a temperature, and it controls the temperature really, really well. It has a humidity gauge. It has a turner on it. So this turns your eggs. You can get some other ones that actually turn them like this. This one turns them in a circle. And let's see, we also have some places to put water. You can see the little red thing right there. There's two containers. There's a small one and a big one. So you fill up the small one first, and that gives you your 50% humidity. And then 3 days before hatch, you fill up both of them, and that gives you your 90% humidity. And the humidity is good for your chickens because otherwise they kind of dry out. It also has a candler on it. You can candle your eggs. And you can set it for different things. Like if you want to do ducks, you can do it for 28 days. Chickens are 21 days. And it'll do turkeys. It does have a little spacer and a different grid if you want to do turkey eggs or goose eggs. So this is readily available on Amazon. I think it's $172. Holds 22 eggs. Works very well. As far as the chickens when they hatch, we like this little kind of bin here. This works very, very well, except if you have cats. You will entertain the cats to no end. So you'll need to have a closed container, but this just works for us. We'll keep them in here for about a week, and then we have a brooder, more temperature controlled out in the barn.
These have been living in our upstairs bathroom. It's handy and it's humid anyway in the bathroom. So we have the chickens there, and I fill up the little water container. I keep a real close eye on it because I want the humidity always the same. Always the same. So probably I will add a few drops into this little container. And I check it every 3-4 hours, and I keep it constant. What you don't want with chickens is, yes, you want to keep things as good as you can. And this does the work. Now, it looks a little strange when I have company and they go upstairs in the bathroom and there on the dresser sits the chickens. Anyway, after they do this, then we take them out of here and they go into here under the light, the heat light. And it's really, 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 really important to keep them anywhere from 100 to 95 degrees the first week. So we have a little thermometer that just sits in there.
It's like $12 on Amazon. And then some of the turners that you can buy, they actually have a little tray for them, and the tray goes around in a circle, or you can see the tray from inside your incubator. And this is also Bluetooth, so if you're just fanatically obsessed about your chickens, you can monitor them 24 hours a day from your phone. How great is that?
I have one neighbor that's going to be a chicken whisperer. I can tell. She has that vibe.
All right. We're going to need a water and a feeder. So there's an example of one on the screen. This is the old classic. This one holds a quart jar. You can always, if you break the jar, you can get another one, or you can run through the dishwasher. These are galvanized, but they do have plastic ones, and they do have the water one just like this, holds a quart of water. The one we have now looks like this, but just holds a little bit more water. And then when you first hatch out the chickens, we always put a couple tablespoons of sugar in the water. It kind of gives them a little zip when they, it's like, oh, that tastes good. I'm going to go back and get some more.
Okay, and the feed, we keep them on organic feed. This is a grower feed. And we have contacts. We can give you numbers if you're interested. They sell, which is a little higher protein as a really maintenance, just regular old chicken feed. It's only a buck different per bag, but it's worse for the grower to get them going good. So we do that.
And then for the bottom of the container, you're going to want some papers, newspapers, and, you know, with cell
Chips,
phones, those newspapers are getting hard to find, right? But
The
or
post
wood
office
chips or
box.
something.
yeah, wood chips work really good.
All right.
It's hot in there. That thing is closer.
Yeah.
They're coming away from it.
We brought some eggs with us. We went down to Runnings the other day, Saturday, and we were just wanted to see what they were charging for eggs. And we're quite surprised they had some chicks there that were the normal price, but they had some turkeys there
I about fainted.
that were $19 a piece.
Each.
Each.
For a baby turkey.
A baby turkey.
I told him we're in the wrong business. I mean,
You could have gone to Walmart and gotten a whole hen turkey frozen for less dollars than that turkey.
and it was 1998, actually, if you want to be exact, for one.
So
I couldn't believe it.
So then we had to go look at all of our online resources. $132.
That's for fertilized.
From McMurray.
From
$132
Yep,
for a dozen eggs
that are fertile.
that could be fertile, and you don't know what if they're hens or roosters. And the bad part is you may not be able to get them till November.
Everybody is either that you can't buy from one of our places, or they'll put you off until November, October, November. Almost impossible to find hens anywhere. A few males here and there, some straight run, but it's nobody's shipping. That they'll sell to the big companies, not itty bitty like we are. So while I used to be able to do that and get them in the mail, and that worked for a while, it doesn't work anymore. So if you have access to somebody that does that and you're interested in chickens, don't count on going to a nursery. Well, then, you know, on that, because there's just not, you know.
All right, so you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'll just use some store-bought organic eggs.
No, you won't.
Not here in the United States, because what we do is we take the egg and we wash it off. So there's a little coating on the outside of the egg called the bloom, and that coating protects the egg itself from bacteria and then also from drying out. Now the hen only has one vent, and everything comes through that one vent, so we have to have a coating on the egg so it doesn't have salmonella or that type of thing. If you go take your egg through the hatcheries, you know, like the big ones here, the Forestmans and all these, they wash it off. So that means that when you get your egg and you stick it in the incubator, which is almost 100 degrees, there's a good chance it'll get bacteria.
You never wash your eggs. If they have poopy on them or something, you scrape it off, but you never get your egg when you want to do what we're doing. If you want it to grow, you never, ever wash the egg. You also don't want to put it in a refrigerator. Okay, you want to keep it room temperature. And you can keep your egg 7 to 14 days just on the counter. Room temperature, unwashed egg. And then we had a lot of eggs that got frozen this winter, and actually in the spring when it got cold again, we had frozen eggs. So they had a crack in them. You cannot use those to do this. Okay, so unwashed, room temperature.
Don't refrigerate them.
Don't refrigerate them.
And here in the United States, we're one of the few countries that actually refrigerates eggs.
They don't do it. They keep them out all the time. They're
They-
not going to go anywhere.
If you don't wash them, you can keep them out on your counter for about 2 months at a time, and there's no problem.
Yep.
But if you get them from our grocery store, you have to put them in the fridge. Yes, ma'am. for us, usually the dogs get them. They change texture a little bit.
And that, once that crack is there, in that egg, it's letting bacteria into that egg.
Right.
Yeah, but it's frozen, but no.
I would think if you cooked with it and you got it nice and hot,
It's probably fine.
it'd probably be
It's
okay.
just they make beautiful coats on, we have Great Pyrenees dogs, and they have big fluffy coats, and they're outdoors when it's 30 below all the time. So,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
they're probably good.
be fine, but,
And then another kind of experiment that we've done before is you might have seen where you take some lime and mix it with water and then put your eggs inside a jar. And you could keep eggs that
2
way
years.
2 years.
Yeah,
Now,
it's,
their texture is a little different, but the dogs love them, and they're good for baking.
yeah, we can use those. I read this online, and some things you see on Facebook or online, and you kind of go, you got to be kidding. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. So I have a big gallon jar, and so I got the lime, mixed that in with water, put the eggs in there, put the date on the lid of the thing, and I had those eggs for 2 years, and probably they would have lasted longer, but we fed them to the dogs, and they're fine. The only difference I could tell was when you crack open the egg to use it, it runs all over the place. It doesn't look like, an egg, a fresh egg would look with its little yolk sticking up. But as far as if you ever decide you need to store a bunch, when we have an overrun of eggs, I can freeze them. I know how to do that. But what if I didn't have electricity? Then how would I store eggs for a long duration? So I know how to store eggs. No, powdered.
powder,
Lime.
like pickly lime.
Lime.
Yeah. So here's our egg. It has a skinny end, and it has a fatter end up here.
Kind of pointy at
Yeah,
one
so it's
end.
pointing at one end. The air bubble is up at this end, the fat end. And one of the things you may notice as you're using eggs is if you've got an egg that's really old, like from the grocery store, really old, it'll have a big air bubble. And that's because the shell itself is porous, and it gives off some moisture, and that air bubble gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The other thing you'll notice about your eggs when you cook them, if you get some store-bought eggs, sometimes the yolk is kind of a pale yellow color. So the store-bought eggs, we think they taste different.
Terrible.
Or terrible. They taste different, and what happens is the elasticity of the yolk, instead of being nice and round like this, it kind of flattens out. So the older your egg is, the more it'll flatten out. And then if it's a bright yellow, that means that the chicken is getting a lot of protein, a lot of
Grain, corn.
corn especially.
Yeah.
And if it's a kind of an orangey yellow, that means it's getting bugs too. So getting all that protein. It's funny, we had some guests come out to our house many years ago, and we fed them breakfast, and they wouldn't eat the eggs because the eggs were too yellow.
Yeah, right. And then I said, where did you get these eggs? Well, the coop. I said, we have nice brown eggs. Oh, we don't eat brown eggs. Really? I love to have some of my city friends come visit. It's a great source of entertainment.
Well, if you do have city friends, here's the benefit of having city friends, especially the ones from Minneapolis. You can charge them $12 or $15 for a dozen eggs.
Yeah, well, really. And I left it up to them, And she said, well, how much you charge? And I said, well, what are they worth to you? Hey, I just say thank you and smile. I could get off on this. I like to forage for plants, too, for weeds that you think are just weeds. And so I like to forage in the spring for, dandelions and, stuff. And then we mix those in with our salads. These are good for you, all kinds of great vitamins. And I have learned how to make dandelion fritters. So you take the top off. I'm getting off the subject.
You're off subject, yes.
Okay, but let me finish. Okay, you cut the head off.
Dandelion season is coming, so it's
Well,
topical.
they'll be prepared. It's really fun, and particularly when you're having city people out. Anyway, here's your dandelion. You cut the little yellow top off. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is to make like a really light pancake batter, and you dip that dandelion flour in this battery stuff, and then you fry it in a big old skillet in coconut oil. You know, you turn it around, cook it up. Okay, then you drain the oil off, you put it on a plate, you pour maple syrup all over it. Now you have this thing, a dandelion head, and you bring it out and you set it on their table and
Eating weeds.
come to our house and eat
You know,
weeds.
just a week before, they were down there buying Scott's turf builder, trying to kill those dandelions. We love dandelions.
We like dandelions.
Okay, so here's the fat end of the egg, here's the skinny end of the egg. Okay.
Good. Thank you for interrupting. Okay.
So fat end of the egg, skinny end of the egg. Most of the time, when the chickens hatch, they're going to hatch from this end,
From the fat end.
from the fat end. Another thing that you want to do is, if you're a perfectionist, you know, type A personality, is store your eggs with the skinny end down so the air bubbles on top.
And then when you put them in your incubator, the same thing. The
Skinny end,
the skinny egg has to
Goes
face
towards
the
the center. or if you have, sometimes the egg turners look like this, they go back and forth like this. Put the skinny egg end down. And if you have a premature hatch or something, it'll pop out the front or top rather than popping out the bottom.
Okay, tell them about the circles.
Those are the older eggs.
Okay, but you have to mark them
Well,
so
yeah.
you know if it's turning right.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for eggs. Temperature is 99.5 degrees, and it's 21 days. On this machine, you have to do a reset. That instruction is not printed on the top of the machine. It's in the little tiny directions, and you have to hold down 2 buttons. And then once you do that, the automatic egg turning starts, and it resets to the 21 days. Ducks are 28 days. And so what we'll want to do is then just place the eggs in the incubator, in the tray, with the skinny egg towards the middle. And then what we like to do is just take a pencil, put a little X mark on it so that we can note if the eggs are turning. Sometimes they get hung up or something, they don't turn. But usually, after a few hours, you'll hear a turn. Maybe every couple hours it'll turn a little bit. If it's up and then it's off to the side, then it's working well. Yes. You can't really tell. If, especially on the brown eggs.
It's hard to see with the candle.
It's really hard to see with the candler, but you may have noticed that if you've cracked an egg open and there's this little tiny dark red speck, that's definitely a fertilized egg. Doesn't look all that great when it is fertilized. And we should say on our eggs, we do need a rooster, right?
Yeah.
You understood that part?
If you have a nice rooster and he does what roosters do, you're going to have fertilized eggs.
In this one, yes.
Yeah. We've had anywhere, right now we have 12 from this last bunch, but what happened was it was cold and this was the first batch of things. And then how many did you guys have?
We've had as many as I think 19 out of the 22.
19 out of the 22. Did you? You never know how many are going to go.
Right. So
So-
sometimes they almost all hatch, sometimes they don't.
And then one thing we just found out about, and we haven't done it yet, so I hesitate to say something, but A lot of people want hens, a lot of people want roosters. Well, we can't sex them, can't guarantee that. But just recently, we have read that when they're 3 weeks old, they'll have little pin feathers, okay? If you have a line of pin feathers on one row and they're all even,
Right, like this,
that's a rooster.
rooster. If they're more like this,
If they're uneven, there's
Then
2
they're-
rows of feathers, that is a hen.
that's a hen.
But you really can't tell until they're 3 weeks old, and mine are always sold before that. So I can't guarantee how, it's usually a 60-40 on the sexes. And so you keep the hens and you eat the roosters. That's, well,
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
All right, so we reset the machine, we put the 22 eggs in there, and we're gonna fill up this first little container full of water. And it does read out the humidity all the time, and so we're gonna add a little more water. And it does have like a little vent here, we can open and close that vent. So this is something that's not automatic, you just kind of do it, you know. We notice, like, for example, if we take a shower in the bathroom, the humidity goes up by like 5%, you know, so. But it's not that critical. At the end of our incubation period, the 3 days before, we're gonna take this little red cover off and then add the second water in the second container. We're gonna try and get that humidity up to close to 90. And then on the 3 days before, we also take this turner out. So now the eggs are just sitting there.
It's so fun, because the day before they hatch, they'll start peeping inside their shell. You can hear them kind of talking to each other. Well, I talk to them too. And so you can, one's here and it's here and it's here and it's here. And then you'll see them having a little hole on top, and what's that called? They peep?
Pip,
Pipping. Pipping is when they do the hole, and then they
zip.
zip, which means they're going around the hole, and ta-da, and there's nothing uglier than a newborn chick. I mean, they are ugly. But anyway,
Yeah. And then if you want to, again, it's hard with the brown eggs, but the white eggs are much easier to see. You can do this at 7 or 14 days, and if it looks like uniformly clear all the way to the top, it's no good. It's just not a fertile egg. But if you see like little veins going through it at 14 days, and then you see more of the embryo bulk there, that's a good egg. Or it's an egg that has the possibility of hatching. Let's put it that way. All right, so that's how you get it going. Once you get your eggs in there and turn it on, it'll probably take anywhere from about 2 hours to get up to that temp.
I'm gonna put it back.
All right, so, okay, let's go to the next one. So here we are, kind of a pre-hatch. Again, 3 days before our hatch, the thing automatically stops turning. We're gonna take the turner mechanism out. And this one is for regular eggs. You can buy ones for turkey goose eggs that hold less, but they're bigger, and then also quail eggs that have a lot more spaces.
Okay, I'm off subject again. We also have geese, and we have mama gooses sitting on a whole ton of eggs, so we will have baby geese for sale. Put that in your memory bank, and that'll probably be in June.
All
Geese
right.
make great watchdogs.
Wonderful watchdogs. They wake up your regular dog,
Our dog,
wake up the regular dogs. All right.
how we doing?
Then we get our, once we do all this, then we kind of get this set up, ready to go. We get our papers down, everything else. And we don't turn it on, we just have it ready to go. Both your turner and your bin should be in a non-drafty area. So chickens don't do well with wind blowing through their feathers. And again, like Sarah was saying, they start peeping the day before. They start making little squeaky noises. So you peep, peep, peep. They're saying, hey, get me out of here. I'm ready to get out. So on the 20th day or the 21st day, you see a little air hole. Let's go to the next slide there. Yeah, there he is. You see
Ugly.
a little air hole, and it's like a little breathing hole. And the chicken has this little tooth at the end of his top beak called an
Beak.
egg tooth. And what he does is it goes up and he pokes the air sac so he gets a little bit more air, and then he makes that little hole. And then they're really upset then. They start complaining, "Oh, get me out of here." They rest up a little bit, then they start zipping around, kind of zipping around this way. And when they get far enough, and they'll push from time to time, when they get far enough, this will kind of pop open and they'll plop out. And this chicken actually looks pretty good up here. It's kind of dried out a little bit, but it's pretty strenuous. So you think they're dead when they come out. They're just like tired and wet and ugly and unhappy. But they're free from the eggs, so that makes them.
And you don't help them. You don't ever help your chicken. If they have trouble getting out, you don't break the shell to help them, because they need the struggle to get out, to get strong enough to survive. And a lot of people say, well, it was struggling, it got, well, don't do it. It'll thrash around enough so it gets free, and it can do it all by itself. It does not need you. And if you do help it, you may be helping it too soon, and it's too weak to survive, and you're killing it.
Right. Then the other thing is, if it's been struggling for 24 hours or so,
Yeah.
then you can go up on YouTube, and there's several people on there on YouTube. You can just see how they kind of help the egg along a little bit, not much.
Not
And
recommended.
not recommended, but people do it. So anyway, just check on YouTube. All right, so we have a few chicks hatched out. After about 4 hours, they kind of dry out. They don't look cute like this yet, but they are kind of dry. So we're going to take about 2 or 3 of them out of here and move them over to there, and we have our lamp going.
You're
And
gonna
what
tell 'em about the poopy bugs.
later?
Okay.
And so you can see, here we got, it says 106, but if you have an open container, it's kind of easy. They're going to self-regulate their temperature. If they're too hot, they're going to move away from the lamp. If they're too cold, they're going to move towards the lamp. Does that make sense? If you have a closed container, you're going to have to regulate that temperature. So you want it 95 the first week, 90 the second week, 85 the third week, all the way down to 70 degrees on the 6th week. At 6 weeks, they should have enough feathers. You can put them in a larger container like a chicken house or brooder and let them stay in there for a few more months, I would say, till they get quite big, and then they can run around the yard. When we move them over, we want to dip their beak in the water.
And you're not drowning it. Come here, baby. Okay, he squawked when I picked him up, and I will dunk the head in.
The
And
beak.
then
The beak.
the beak, yeah, not the whole. no.
Is it?
But anyway, you just dunk him, and he'll do this, and then you dunk him again, do it again. And you want to do that, when you're messing with them. She's gonna take these with her tonight, and she'll probably dunk everybody at least once a day, and knowing her, she'll probably dunk them several times. You want to make sure that they're drinking as well as eating, and they come out pecking at everything. And what's really cool, we have a very old farmhouse, but we have leaky windows, and we get those, and we've captured some of those beetles and put in there to see if the chicks, they'll go after stuff. They peck even at, like this. So, anyway, yeah, it's okay.
All right, so you dip their beak in water.
Okay.
Usually sprinkle a little bit of the food on the papers, and they'll peck at that till they figure out they're supposed to be eating. Then you want to take your old broken eggshells out of of the incubator and then keep watching. So usually the hatching process is about 48 hours long, typically. So you might have an early achiever that comes out a day early. You might have some that go a couple day past.
And the shells can go in your garden, good minerals for your garden.
About, you want them to dry off a little bit.
You want them starting to fluffy
so-
rather than,
About 3 to 4 hours, they should be dry off. And they'll look, their feathers will look like that, which is not very attractive. It takes them about a day to get real
to
fluffy.
do fluffy. You don't have to wait for fluffy, but you do want to wait for them to be dried out.
So as far as care goes, one of the things you want to do every day is to check for what we call poopy butt or pasty butt.
And people
So
said,
here, this chick has it. I know we could say, things about chicken, what. So if you don't remove that, the chicken will die. You have to take that off.
we hear people that have done chicks or had them before and they lost all of them. And the first question, I said, okay, do they have poopy butts? And they look at me like, what did you say? Well, that's what it is. And so once that happens, it hardens there and the baby gets stopped up and it'll kill it. So most times when people lose a baby chick, it's because of the poopy butt syndrome. So you want to do this or can I do it? I'm doing so well.
Yeah, you're doing so well.
Okay, come here.
Here you go.
Well, this one wants to talk. He can just be the demo. Okay, so when you see that on the chick, and again, Wendy will probably checking, you want to check on, oh, my goodness, attitude. No. Okay, what I do, and we had 3 of them today, this morning, that had started that, and it dries on there. So what I do is I take chicken in my left hand, and I run water, warm water, out of the faucet, and I run it just on the bottom. I don't want to get the whole chicken wet. Baby chicks don't like, and that's dangerous. They can get cold, they can get chilled. You don't want them really wet. But just that area, and you let the water run on it for 2-3 minutes, not real hard, but pretty steady, and it'll soften that, and then it pulls right off. You don't want to force it because you're going to pull feathers or intestine. Then you have a dead chicken. Okay? All right.
Yeah, so if you're squeamish about that, a box of gloves.
Yeah, those little plastic disposable gloves are great.
So the first 2 weeks or so, do that every day. Check for those pasty butts every day. Because if you let it go for 3-4 days, then the chicken can't get rid of the waste, stops eating, then it gets really weak fast. All right, how are we doing here?
We're doing good.
And change out the bedding every couple days. On an open container like this, when the chicks start roosting on top of your feeder or your water,
Put them out or put a lid on it.
get a closed container or put a lid on it or something.
Otherwise, you're going to
ne-
be surprised.
The next day, they'll be out running around the room.
We've had that too.
All right. So those are the, normally, if you watch for the pasty butt, that would be just fine. A couple other issues you might see. Chicks normally do 3 things. They sleep, they peck, and then they run around. They're kind of social, they run around. So if they're not doing those 3 things, if they're just kind of laying there, you should look at them. Most common problem, again, is the pasty butt or poopy butt. Occasionally, you'll have a problem with what they call splayed legs. And so splayed legs is when the chick is born, but they can't seem to get the legs under them. So the legs are out like this. And then you have to treat the chicken. And the way you treat the chicken is you get a small, like a half pint jar, glass jar, and you stand the chicken up in it so the legs have to be down. And you let it sit there for about an hour, and then you stick it out, and they wobble around a little while, and then maybe later on the day, you stick it back in that jar so that they get used to the legs being under the chicken. And that's pretty easy to correct. It's just, if you don't do it, then they're always on the ground. You can, if you find another like really weak chicken, let's throw the next slide up there, Teresa. Oh, there's the healthy chicks. That's what they look like right now. And then the next chick. Here's some chicks I found on the internet. They don't look all that happy. But you can feed them with a dropper. So a little bit of water, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of egg yolk all mixed together, and you can feed them with a dropper.
It's egg white.
Hmm?
It's egg white.
Egg white. Egg white, sugar, and water. So, and there is something called poultry cell, which is like a vitamin powder. You can buy that on Amazon. And you can, that's like a nutrient, liquid powdered nutrient, and you can mix that in as well. But you can recover them. I mean, depends on how many 7-year-old kids you got watching all this thing take place. You might put more effort into it.
Yeah, well, this is a marvelous project for kids. I did a video of what we're doing tonight, and it's on my website. Did it a couple, years ago. But people, for 4-H projects, for a project that a 5-6-year-old can handle, it is so easy doing this. And the success rate is huge, marvelous for the kids. Responsibility, all that parenting stuff. I'm working now on my great-grandsons. I want to give them one of these so bad, and I talked to my son and I said, well, do you think they're ready? And he said, you'd have to talk to their mom. Well, anyway, just super, super easy and really good for kids, I think, to have that kind of thing going on. And for senior citizens. We used to go over to the
Nursing homes.
nursing home in Cokato.
And
we'd
different
take,
places, yes.
yeah, and we'd take baby chicks, and it would bring back memories. And you'd have people that were kind of half asleep, and then you'd show them the box of chicks. We took rabbits, baby rabbits one year, because we raised rabbits.
Nobody cares about rabbits. They don't care much about sheep. Show them chickens.
Chickens.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, yeah.
They wake up,
And
it's really funny.
we took puppies, we took lambs, and when somebody's kind of not there, and you see them light up, it's really fun. It's a blessing.
All right. So in about 6 weeks, you kind of allowed them to adjust down to about 70 degrees. If you have a coop or you want to put them in a coop, that would be good. Just kind of an area that is not very drafty. It helps to have like a practice roost. So a practice roost is maybe like a 2x4 set on edge with some feet on it, and maybe only about this tall, so that they learn to hop up and rest at night. Does that make sense? They will naturally roost, but they just got to figure out how to do it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And you can see this is the main chicken house we have. We have a couple of round stemmed or tree branches, essentially trunks, and they're about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. And those roosts should be no more or no less than 2 inches in diameter, preferably bigger or flat. And the reason being is if they're round, the hens and chickens will grab around them like this, and if they're too small, it causes something called bumblefoot, and the feet swell up. Or if it's the winter, if they're wrapped too far around, the feathers don't cover the feet, and the ends of the feet freeze. So either a flat roost or one that's more than 2 inches around. In about 15 to 16 weeks, you're going to hear the roosters start to crow. And they're like teenagers with squeaky voices.
It's funny. You could always tell. And then about 3 weeks after that is when you'll find the pullet eggs. The boys are first. They start with the voice change. And as soon as I hear that, then I can mark the calendar, because it'll be about 3 weeks and the girls will start their pullet eggs, which is it's a small egg. They're just kind of learning, and eventually they'll be, the size.
Yeah, so you can see from the diagram, we have several varieties of chickens in here.
I wanted to get some Americanas. They lay the blue and green eggs, just because I like it. This is fun for me. So we do it for practical reasons, but I also have a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's
with
some Americanas in there. And then in our chicken coop, we have a hanging feeder. So otherwise, if you let the food be on the ground, the chickens love to scratch. They'll scratch all the food out of your container.
And organic feed's expensive,
Yes.
statement.
And then if you have a waterer, you have to keep the waterer unfrozen in the winter. So there's all these little challenges.
We good?
All right, so by 20 weeks, those roosters are going to be very, very,
Armor,
yeah,
friendly?
friendly towards the hens and very aggressive towards each other. So they're going to try and kill each other. So we had some folks call us up last year and, how come there's black spots all over our chickens? And it was like, how many roosters you got? Oh, we got 3. Aha,
Blood spots.
blood spots, they're fighting. So you have to get it down to 1 rooster. If you want to have a spare, put the spare in the barn or put it out in some other place. One thing you could do is if you have an old rooster and you bring in a young rooster, the old rooster is always going to be in charge, always going to eat first, and that young rooster will be up on the roost most of the day, only comes down at night when the other rooster's there. But it's better just to have 1 rooster. If you want to have a spare, keep them someplace else, or have friends that have them. Like these make the roosters, they're probably about 5 pounds at 5 months, so they're pretty tasty,
Very tasty.
very tasty. Sounds cruel, but that's
No, it isn't.
That's how-
It's practical.
how it happens. Hens will lay the pullet eggs, which are smaller, and then as the chicken gets older and older, the eggs will get a little bit bigger, they'll get full size, and then by 2 years, they'll get just a little bit bigger. And chickens the hens lay well up to about 3 years, and then after 3 years, they slow down. So we're typically on a 3-year cycle. We have
Great place.
to replace it. And we have actually 3 different spots where we can put chickens, so sometimes we'll have 2 going, 2 flocks going, sometimes we have 3.
Well, we have a chicken tractor, which is kind of fun, which we have a few out by the big garden, because you could throw stuff in there too from the garden and it goes all over. And then there are 2 little coopy things
Yeah.
that I can keep things.
Yeah, go ahead. I would say not more than about 20, although some people would recommend 12, but not more than 20, not more than 20. And another thing too is, you know how, the new car year, everybody runs down to Holt Motors to look at the brand new cars? We'd go to the county fairs and the state fair. First thing we'd do is go to the poultry barn to see what the latest and greatest chicken, especially the roosters, see what the latest and greatest chicken looks like. Oh, we got to get that one. So we've gone through a lot of different chickens over the years. Like New Jersey Giant and Silver Lace
They're mean.
Wyandotte.
They're
and,
good.
And, they're all fun. Our favorites would be like these Buff Orpingtons. And the
Anything that gives me-
Americanas have the pink and red, or not,
Green.
pink, green, and blue eggs.
Yeah.
They're kind of fun. They're already colored. And they also have very small combs and wattles, so that they do very, very well in cold. Americana?
Americana.
Sometimes it's called Americana.
Sometimes it's Americana, which
But-
is just a spin-off.
They come from South America, the Andes.
They don't lay quite as many eggs as this, but for me, it's fun. It's like, kind of like Easter eggs. So it's just fun. And then I can tell the ages. If I had 3 batches going at a time and they were all buffs, I couldn't tell who's a year old and who's 3 years old, you know, but if I have different breeds going, then I know the ages. Because we regularly chomp on the ones at 3. I mean, they know that, you know, thank you very much. Happy soup, you know, that's just the way it is. And we don't, even if they're laying, it's like we've got it kind of down. You know, we learn new stuff every year, but we've got it down. So.
And as far as egg laying, so if the hens don't get enough protein, the egg laying slows down. So you can say, oh, you know, I'll get to the feed store next week. Well, you'll notice the egg laying will drop off. Because that's their job, is they convert feed into one type of protein.
If you forget the water, or the water goes dry for a day or so, they'll stop laying. I mean, they need water. That egg is mostly water anyway. So you want to keep that's probably more important, as important anyway as the feed. I think more, because you want to keep that going on. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Typically, it just depends on how many bugs and stuff that you have in your area.
And I can't let my chicks forage all the time. I let them out for a long time in the spring, but when I have you saw the garden boxes? They'll get up in one of those boxes and destroy my little raised beds. Or if they get into the main garden, they'll eat things. And they love hostas, and I like my hostas too, but not for chicken food. So I don't let them, then we'll pen them. But we feed them. They have access to food 24/7.
Yeah, so here's...
Yeah, but they forage in the spring, and then in the fall, when I'm done with the garden, you know, and I don't care what's going on out there anymore, then I let them forage. And they're really good because they get ticks. We don't have ticks because we let them go, and they'll go for the eggs, and you know, they'll keep us tick-free, which is good with as many animals as we have.
So here's kind of a funny story. Probably about 5 years ago, end of the growing season, we had a few adult grasshoppers. We didn't pay any attention to them. We're busy picking tomatoes and cucumbers. Well, next year, we had a lot of grasshoppers. I mean, way too many grasshoppers, and they were getting really destructive. So we had this bright idea in June. We're going to let the chicken tractor chickens open the doors and let them go out and take care of the grasshoppers.
Which
they did. And they really enjoyed the salad too. All the
my cabbages.
Cabbages.
I had 50 cabbages. One day I had 50 cabbages just about ready to roll. Next morning, go out there and they were leveled. Leveled. I was upset. Very upset.
So ducks actually make better weeders, but the best way if you want to do it, and you'll see the Chinese do it, is they'll make little tunnels between the rows for the chickens to go in. And that's really the best way. But chickens, they love their veggies. They like tomatoes, and they love greens, and they love to scratch. So
I was so excited about that. I said, look, we solved that grasshopper problem. We did a video. It went up on my Facebook. You know, how smart we are. Ha, 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 ha. And then, I never did do a repentant thing and tell them what really happened. But I wonder how many people tried that and had the same result.
Also, hens need 15 hours of light every day to lay eggs. So if you don't have 15 hours of light, like in the fall and the winter, you have to put a light in on a timer. Make sure if you want them to lay all year long.
A lot of people think they slough off from laying because it's cold. The cold doesn't bother them. It's the lack of light. So you keep a light. We have lights in the chicken house and in the duck pen thing. And you keep that going on so they get...
Right. So like you see in the picture there, that light would be on a timer.
Can you leave it on 24/7, the light?
You
could.
could.
You have electricity, but he's got everything on.
The cheap $7, $8 timer I use for Christmas lights. They work fine. All right. Another kind of interesting thing is you should always lock up your chickens at night. They are so tasty. It seems like everybody, every dog, every coyote, every raccoon in the neighborhood wants to have a chicken or at least an egg to eat, and so they'll come find you. So if you don't lock up your chickens, that's probably bad. You can get some doors that open and close all by themselves on timers. We have dogs, so we have very little problem with predators. And every once in a while, we'll come out and we'll see dead raccoons or dead shrews or dead mink in the yard.
Dogs take care of it.
Dogs take care of it. The other thing is, occasionally you'll have a chicken that didn't get back in the coop. And chickens have excellent eyesight. I mean, they can see a little speck, 10 feet away, except their night vision is horrible. So if you have to capture that chicken, get it back in the coop, you wait till it's dark, and then you can walk up to it very slowly and grab its wings like this. And you'll hear it kind of, I don't like what's going on, but you can grab it and then put it back in the coop.
Chicken.
Otherwise, you'll be chasing that chicken in the daylight, you'll be chasing that
No.
chicken around for
You
hours.
don't want to do that. And then what a really good tool is a fishing net, because you can net those rascals. I can't chase them, but I can sure net them. So, yeah.
All right. So for many years, we would buy chicks, and our favorite place to buy them is the Cackle Nursery in Missouri, and they typically have a minimum order size, but we just checked their website a couple days ago, and hens and straight runs, they're gone for the year. I mean, they're sold out through November 1st. Same way with McMurray and some other ones that we looked at. Let's see. Yeah, Cackle, Missouri, Valley sold out, Freedom Rangers sold out. Somebody said they got some from a hatchery in Wilmer, but I'm not sure how that goes. So the chicks are usually shipped out in a container on a Monday, and they go priority mail or priority mail express. So recently, the UPS, I think it's the 19th of January, they said, well, they're live animals, so we're going to put more charge on it. So if it's just a kind of the normal mailing, it's $7.50.
Per
If it's
chicken.
not per chicken.
Oh, I thought it was per chicken.
If it's Priority Express, it's $15. So now you're paying, your $6 for chicken, plus you're paying, you have to buy at least 10 or 20 of them, plus you're paying the shipping, plus you're paying $15. So that's how it's getting to be. They go out on Monday. Typically, if we order from Missouri, we'll get them on a Wednesday. And we always like to track the shipping, which you can do online pretty easy. Because if it gets to be 9 o'clock on that day when they're at the post office and we don't get a call, those are busy people at the post office. And I don't know how you ignore all that chirping. But we call them up and say, hey, you got our chickens? And they go, oh, yeah.
Come get 'em.
We were wondering what we're going to do with those. And then you just call them up, go to the back door, and they'll give them to you.
A chicken can.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
They work off that egg yolk sac.
It's 3 days.
They kind of absorb that into their body.
They can survive quite nicely living off the yolk, and they really don't need food and water. It takes 3 days. They can go 3 days without it. I don't recommend that, but 3 days they're still alive, and then you start feeding them and watering them, and they'll be fine.
Yeah. And most of the time, recently, last 10, 15 years, that's been working really well. Sometimes before that, if the chickens got too hot or they're 4 or 5 days in transit, then usually had problems. And then a lot of times what the hatcheries will do is they'll throw in an extra chicken.
They always give you one extra in case in transient they lose
So if
one.
one passes, at least you have your 15 chickens.
And 99 times out of 100, that extra one is a rooster. We found that out too.
Okay. All right, so is there any specific questions? We got some handouts here we can hand out here. Oh, yeah.
So building up one rooster, you have several kinds of chickens? Is that a problem?
No, we just have your eggs roll in this one.
What do you charge for your chicks?
I get $7 a piece for them,
Yeah.
and these are organic. They're generational. We're pretty picky about the sheep and the chickens. And I'm sorry.
Asked how much they were.
They're $7.
And to get back to your question, is you can have one rooster, and you don't actually have to have a rooster. The hens lay without a rooster.
You'll have eggs.
They'll lay just fine without a rooster. In fact, almost all the eggs that you get from the commercial hatcheries, they never see a rooster.
But you want the fertilizer.
Yes. So if you cross the breeds, you're going to get a combination of the breeds.
That was, I guess, one of my questions.
Yeah. But as far as just getting eggs, they're fertile eggs. So as you're eating the eggs, of course, the ones that are grown in cages have the most cholesterol. Allowed to free range have less cholesterol, and the ones that are allowed to free range and are with a rooster have the least amount of cholesterol. And eggs are pretty good for you as far as a protein source. So, but I think Minneapolis, you can have up to 6 eggs. A couple of the other cities, you can have up to 6 eggs.
And Hutchinson just had a board meeting, and they're voting so they can do it in city limits in Hutch.
6 eggs, and they're usually all the 6 eggs are hens, not roosters. The roosters, they're pretty talkative about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
May not be
I was
best
gonna
behaved.
say, why don't you let the hens hatch them out?
That's a good idea. If you've got a broody hen and you can kind of tell that she'll want to set and stuff. I'm impatient.
Oh, I was just curious.
No, a lot of them do. I have friends now that have their, that are sitting. We sold them some last, and she's addicted. And so now she wants to do it, and she's got a whole nest, and she's got a broody hen. Some do, some don't, Good, I hope she does it.
If they're broody, do you ever let them?
I don't give them the chance. We either eat them or hatch them.
Yeah.
It's just,
And occasionally we've had chickens that will sit and they hatch out. The only problem is a chicken this big running around the yard
it's not
makes
a
a
good.
tasty treat.
And we have lots of kitties.
We have a lot of cats, outside cats, and birds.
So it's
And-
just,
and-
this is a given, and it's really easy for me.
And surprisingly, we've in the past we've had like ducks, like the Pekin ducks and khaki Campbell ducks, and these cute little ducklets are all running around the yard. There'll be like 12 of them or 15 of them, and all run around the yard 3 days
One or two.
because the owls and the hawks get them.
They get them from the sky if you don't. The parents, the geese, are wonderful guardians for their kids. But
The ducks, not so much.
no, but they can't defend against. We have Great Pyrenees dogs that if something came at them at our stuff level, but they can't do anything with the stuff that comes from the sky. So we have lost, poultry.
Yeah. So if you
From the
keep your,
sky.
if you let the mom do it, you let the hen do it, and you keep them contained when they're hatched, it's good.
It's good, but you have to really keep an eye on it.
So the nice thing about chickens is, basically you feed them and they keep propagating themselves year after year after year. That's one of the things about them. You could say the same thing about horses. All right. Yes, ma'am. We have some friends kind of south of town here. We can talk to you later. They sell it only in 50-pound bags, so.
And you can get the the grower or just the regular feed, and stuff like oyster shell and all of that kind of commotion.
Or Amazon sells it for about 3 times the price.
Oh, yeah, they were
Yes,
paying
ma'am.
In regards to pasty bud, I had heard that organic apple cider vinegar in the water helps with that.
Could, could, it could. And if you do apple cider vinegar in your galvanized, they'll rust out really fast.
So, you want
But, you know, if that's an option, you can try it.
Well, I wasn't sure, I was just wondering if you had.
We hadn't tried that, no. We hadn't, just because this stuff with us lasts forever, you know, and so if it's gonna disintegrate, we won't use what would make it disintegrate. And we really haven't had a need. You know, we've lost a chicken here and there, but it's no big deal. It does not affect the whole scheme of things. And I think we started when we moved from, we've been at it about 30 years.
We started in '93.
So, and we're city kids. We moved here from Dallas, Texas. Big city. We never had grown anything, never seen anything born, but I was a wannabe. So we're now wannabes, and I mean, we're not even wannabes because we're wanted. That didn't sound right. But we've got it going. We have learned to do some the hard way, some the easy, but we're raising probably 85–90% of everything we eat, whether it's the meat or berries or trees or veggies, herbs, that. Just because I think it's interesting, and it sure beats the system. There.
All right. So I have some eggs for sale, for $70, anybody wants to buy them. Yes, ma'am.
On occasion. You might as well just cook the hen because it's almost impossible to break
Yeah.
it once it starts.
Now, Amazon sells some ceramic eggs,
We did that too.
and we got some brown ones and we got some white
The
ones.
ones,
The only thing we noticed is we have egg customers, and after a while, those eggs would disappear. But the people never complained about,
and I'd take them to church every Sunday. I had regular customers, so we'd take the eggs in there, and, you know, but periodically, I made the mistake of loading up a ceramic egg. And, because they look exactly the same. But nobody ever said anything, but I don't think we even have any anymore.
I think we have 2, maybe.
I didn't do it on purpose, it happens.
Yeah, so one thing that helps is,
I can't hear it.
yeah, if you don't have feed out for them, they get hungry after a while, and especially if they're confined, they start looking for things to peck on.
And if they're low on certain kinds of minerals,
Right.
they'll go for it.
And then you want your nesting box, the lip of your nesting box up above their eye level,
So they're not looking at them.
so they don't really see them. They'd have to hop up on the nesting box to see where the egg is. If the egg is on the ground, even ducks will eat eggs. Currently, 12.
And they're parenting for me. We're using them to do this. And they're 3 years old. And they will live as long as I need them to fertilize eggs. And that'll happen at the end of the summer. But I have a waiting list if anybody's interested in getting eggs. We have eggs now. I can have some available the end of May and into June, and then all the rest of the summer, because I have a waiting list of people. And you kind of take what you get. Like this was a 12 chick hatch. They had a 17, 18 hatch. Whatever comes out, that's what you get. And we are going to try the thing with the wings to be able to sex them, but I'll never keep them for 3 weeks. So I won't see the pin feathers that are different, you know. So what we call them is straight run, and it's usually a 60-40 percentage on them. And I recommend, fine, do that. Keep one rooster, do this yourself, eat the rest of the roosters, and have eggs for a good 3 years. This works, particularly when they're getting a bunch of money for eggs. I about fainted. No. I told you we were city kids. No. We love them. We don't name them either. We're not, these are
Yeah.
animals. These are not pets.
And one of the things too is, it's hard to do everything well.
So
And
what we do
that's
is,
the problem. Like, you don't want to know where these hands have been, okay?
I am the midwife for the sheep, and we have polypace sheep. We have that breed because they often have triplets or quads, and I know how to fetch them out if they're not. Okay?
But, you know,
That's another story.
shots and worming and docking tails and all, you know, catheters and all this stuff. You learn it after a while.
You learn it by
Because
doing it.
if you don't learn it, something dies.
Something dies. And I used to call the vet when we had a problem, and shoot, that sheep would die anyway. We had one with, I don't need to tell this.
No, we don't go there. We're talking about
I think
chickens
that's
today.
a good story. They'd like it. This is a good group. Prolapse uterus. Don't ask me what that is. If you don't know, find out. Anyway, she was pregnant. She had a prolapse uterus. So I panicked and I called the vet, and he came out and he put it back and he sewed her up. And he sent me a bill, big bill. He handed it to me for his office call in my barn, and plus the procedure. It was a big bill. Okay, so he leaves. 6 hours later, she has a prolapsed uterus. Call vet, repeat. This is ridiculous.
And then who gets to do it, you know?
I mean,
I mean, I think I'd used rope and duct tape and everything else.
we use duct tape. Every redneck knows how to use duct tape. So, anyway, see, it's a good story, I told you. But anyway, I did work temporarily, but by that time, the area was so unsanitary, the sheep died, you know. She did manage to have 3 triplets before she died, and I think I saved one of those. They were pretty well. Now,
All right, any more chicken questions?
anyway, I have a list if you're interested to the farm and pick them up. We do not deliver. Yes,
You were saying 60/40, 60% which way?
I don't know. Why do you think I say it that way? I've had it both ways. You're the first person that ever asked me. You're a smart lady. But I have no idea how to tell, and I've had it both ways, so I just say 60/40. But, yeah,